How many times have we heard that we spend too much time on the things that we're not very good at? Probably not often. Today we will be discussing discovering your strengths with the Clifton StrengthsFinder. Most of you should have already taken the Clifton StrengthsFinder assessment, and you should have listed your top 5 strengths according to this assessment. So today we're going to talk about those strengths, we're going to talk about talents, and we're going to talk about how we apply those strengths and how we can select the correct major according to our strengths. So before we begin, it's very important that we understand exactly what this comes from. The StrengthsFinder comes from the psychology field of positive psychology. And that theory just states that we need to spend more time thinking about things that come naturally to us as opposed to spending more time on our weaknesses. So let's first talk about what exactly a talent is. A talent is a naturally recurring thought pattern, a naturally recurring behavior, a naturally recurring feeling that you productively apply over and over. Now, a strength is built from the actual talent. The strength is the ability to consistently provide near perfect performance within a particular activity. So if you're thinking about something that you typically do well over and over and over, that's probably an indication that you have a strength in that particular area. So the strength comes from the talent, and it comes from the knowledge that you acquire from studying that particular content area, and then lastly, from applying and actually practicing that skill. So just because you have a particular strength doesn't necessarily mean you're already good in that particular area. You have to learn, you have to acquire the knowledge, and then you have to practice. Just like you would in the band or the orchestra or in any sport, you have to practice. It's very important that you do not confuse skill and success with strengths. A specific skill is not a strength. Perhaps your skill is typing, or perhaps your skill is math or science. Those are not necessarily strengths. As you have seen from the StrengthsFinder that you have taken, you have the opportunity to have 34 strengths listed in order from top to bottom. Of course, top being your number 1 strength, and at the end of your assessment, you received those top 5. The strengths require skill. So, strengths come from talent and they come from skill, but they are not necessarily skill. If you are successful in a particular area, you really need to start thinking about that particular area because that could be an indication of an underlying strength. So first I would like you to answer this question, true or false? You can turn your weaknesses into strengths. That answer actually is false. We have been told differently our whole lives, haven't we? We've been told that we actually can make a weakness into a strength, but that is not true. Because based on the Clifton StrengthsFinder definition of a strength is something that is recurring naturally and you productively apply that strength almost near perfectly every time. So based on that definition, it's impossible that my math skill, which is a big weakness of mine, it's impossible that my math skill would ever be as great as my communication skill. So it is not true that we can actually turn a weakness into a strength. We can neutralize those weaknesses, and in fact, we need to do that. We need to work on our weaknesses to the level that they are acceptable so that we can function within our particular content area. The next true and false question I would like for you to answer is a good team member well-rounded? Again, you probably answered true, but the answer is actually false. A good team member is someone who deliberately applies their strengths to the team or to the organization. You know, many times we've been told we want you to be well-rounded, we want you to take all these different classes, we want you to be exposed, and that's true, we do. We want you to be well exposed, but we want you to know your top 5 strengths, and we want you to be able to deliberately apply those 5 strengths within your academics, within your profession, and also within your personal life. So let's remember, in order to create those strengths, we have to develop the skill. We have to build upon that knowledge. We need to study that particular content area, and then we need to practice those skills. So first, identify the most dominant talents, which is what we've done today with the StrengthsFinder. You have your top 5. Secondly, complement those. So if your strengths are in an area, let's say the relationship building domain, if most of your strengths are appearing in that area, then you should probably consider studying a field that helps other people, such as social work or communication or humanities, a field that will allow you to apply those relationship building strengths on a daily basis. And then, of course, last, we need to invest in those strengths. So the takeaway for today is, number one, focus on your strengths as opposed to your weaknesses. Manage those weaknesses. Get them up to a level where they're manageable, because we're not going to reach our full potential unless we are actually applying our top 5 strengths. And that's exactly what we want for you in this FYE 105 course. We want you to determine what your potential is, and we want to help you reach that potential. You know, I had several different majors in college. In fact, I think I had 5. Many years of studying, many years of not studying, and many years of going back and forth between what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I have 21 hours in special education. I was going to be a speech pathologist. I would have been a great speech pathologist. It would have been a great job. But I would have never reached my full potential of who I am by being a speech pathologist. I was born to be a professor. I was born to be an educator. I am able to reach my full potential because I selected a field in which I can apply my top 5 strengths every single day. So I use that example to share with you that, yes, you can go into a particular field in which you would be good. However, does that necessarily mean you're going to reach your full potential? Maybe, maybe not. So you need to be thinking about that as we're discussing this today. So select a pathway that will allow you to perform higher. Just like if I would have been a speech pathologist, I would have been probably above average on the scale of, excellent to not very good. But I would not be able to perform as high as I do in my field that I am now. Because I'm allowing myself to apply my top 5 strengths, I'm motivated every single day. I wake up in the mornings, I'm ready to come to work, I'm excited about my work, I'm very motivated to do what I do, and I'm highly satisfied in my career. We want you to be satisfied. Many of us have had jobs in which we just collect a paycheck. We've had to make ourselves go to that job. We clock in, we clock out, we dread it every single day. Life does not have to be that way. You do not have to have what we call a dead-end job the rest of your life just to pay your bills. We want you to get paid for something that comes naturally to you and something that is satisfying, because you will live a more satisfied life if you do that. All of your strengths will fit into one of these 4 strengths domains. The first is the executing domain, which means people are really good at turning ideas into reality. The second domain is called influencing. These people are really good at selling ideas to the audience. Now, this does not mean that these people are naturally good salespeople. It's about selling an idea, not a product. Third, the dimension is called relationship building. These people are really good at developing teams. They're the glue who holds the team together, and they're very, very good at building relationships among people. The last domain is called strategic thinking. These people are linear thinkers. They are very good at looking at facts and then making decisions, and they're really good at leading organizations and leading teams to make better decisions for their organization. So what I want you to do is take out a piece of paper and draw the dimensions from left to right, just like I have on the screen here, and then we're going to chart all of your strengths and find out where your strengths actually lie. You may have 1 in every single dimension. You may have 3 in one dimension. You may have 2 in one and 2 in another. There's no right or wrong answer. But if you see a pattern, if most of your strengths fall in the, let's say, relationship building domain, then that's a pretty good indication that you might want to consider a field of study that allows you to build relationships on a daily basis. So let's talk about the leadership within these particular domains. If you are in the executing domain, which is the first one on the left, you are present-oriented and task-oriented. That means that you're not necessarily as excited about the people involved in the process. You're more excited about the process. Secondly, the relationship building domain, of course, that's going to be people-oriented, and you're focused on the present. Third is influencing. These people are focused on the people and the future. So these people are good at developers, they're good at cheerleader, they're good at motivator. So those are the type of personalities or strengths that come out of that particular domain. Lastly, the strategic thinking domain is focused on the task and it's focused on the future. So let's talk about the executing domain. These people know how to make things happen. They work tirelessly until the job is complete. And they have this really neat ability to catch an idea and then make it into a reality. So let's take a look at what these strengths are. Achiever, arranger, belief, consistency, deliberative, discipline, focus, and responsibility. If you have any one of these strengths, go ahead and write them down in the domain of executing. And I'll give you just a moment to do that. Okay, so if you have strengths in this domain, we're going to come back to that. If you don't have any strengths in this domain, that's just fine too. All right, so let's go on to the second domain. It's called influencing. These people, again, are really good at selling ideas inside and outside the organization. These people are the ones who stand up, they speak up, they take charge, and they also make sure that other people's voices are heard. These people are activators. They engage in command, communication, competition, maximizer, self-assurance, significance, and woo. So go ahead and chart your strengths in this particular domain. If you have strengths in this domain, you need to consider a field of study that will allow you to change the lives of other people or assist in changing the lives of other people. That is very rewarding for someone who is in the influencing domain. All right, let's move on to the relationship building domain. These are the people who are the glue that holds the group together. They're the ones who are constantly making sure that everyone is synergistic, that we're getting along, that we're working well together. We could probably think of someone in our own families who may fit this description. You know, we may have the grandmother or the aunt or the uncle even who, you know, really is good at getting everyone together and keeping everyone together. So, these strengths are adaptability, connectedness, developer, empathy, harmony, includer, individualization, and positivity, and then lastly, relator. So go ahead and chart your strengths on this one as well. All right, if you're seeing that you have some strengths in this particular domain, you definitely want to consider a field that will allow you to work with people one-on-one. Perhaps the first thing that comes to my mind is being an advisor in college. You know, we work with students one-on-one to help them understand what they're supposed to do with their lives. Social workers a lot of times will fit into this particular area. Educators will as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go into social worker education. Those are just a couple examples that come to my mind. All right, let's take a look at the last domain, strategic thinking. These people are really good at keeping everyone focused on task of what could be. They constantly analyze information. They're constantly absorbing information. They help us make better decisions within the organization, and they're constantly stretching us to, you know, go outside the box and think about the future. These strengths include analytical, context, futuristic, ideation, input, intellection, learner, and lastly, strategic. So go ahead and chart your strengths again. All right, if you have some strengths in this domain, you definitely want to consider a field of study that will allow you to analyze information, that will allow you to what we call connect the dots between two different things. A lot of times these people go into the field of business, or they go into some type of area that will allow them to constantly analyze information, because this is something that comes natural to them. Someone like me, 4 of my 5 strengths are in the influencing domain. So if I chose a career that I had to analyze information all day and I had to think about these numbers and think about enrollment trends, I would not be satisfied, and I really wouldn't be very good at it, to be quite honest. So it's important that you really understand how to use these 5 strengths in your academics. So today, it's important to remember, we want you to focus on your strengths. We want you to simply manage those weaknesses. Now, I am not saying that we should go tell Professor Ragsdale that Dr. Johnson said I don't have to take Math 65 or 85 because it's not my strength. That is not what Dr. Johnson said. What Dr. Johnson said was, let's manage those weaknesses to a level to where we can function properly within our given content area. We want you to reach your full potential as a person. And the only way that you can do that is by knowing your top 5 strengths and deliberately applying them by choosing the major that's right for you, which will allow you to go into the career where you can be the best you that you possibly can, and so that you can live a fully fulfilled life.